Dear students, welcome to EPG Patashala. I am Dr. Srividya K from Srimati VHT Central List of Home Science, Bangalore. Today, I am going to present this paper on Humanics National Assessment Form. Assessment is an important part of any classroom transactions or instructions which determines whether or not the purpose of classroom transactions between teachers and the students are being met. Assessment determines or changes one's grades, job placement, or for any future goals to pursue, curriculum, and so on. Educational assessment is a streamlined process of arranging and documenting data of the holistic abilities of the students to help them improve their learning. The data can be gathered by observing or examining the work done by students to assess the level of understanding of the education given to them, or data can be anecdotes and other observations made by the educators. Educational assessments can be focused on a single learner or on a community of learners, a curriculum, an academic institution, and the whole education system. Assessments are done very systematically and at definite time periods. It usually starts with an issue that phases up. Data is collected by any methods of data collection, analyzed, interpreted, and intervention is planned if necessary. All these aspects are done to enhance student learning. With a general idea about what is assessment, let's now look into the aspect of early childhood assessment in brief and then get into the details of Humanics National Assessment Form. Early childhood assessment. Early childhood assessment is an aid that is used to collect and makes available crucial information regarding a child's development to the parents, educators, and other adults who are involved in watching over a child's progress. It is very important to include assessment in the academic program. Child assessments are timed at regular time intervals, or it can also set as a process which happens almost all the time in an educational setup to monitor the child's learning and development. These assessments are used by early childhood teachers, parents, community to assess the impact of teaching practices or a curriculum or plan activities that is developmentally appropriate, which will enable the child to learn better. Assessments are done for a long period of time. All the observations and documentations of a child's development and performance will be recorded over a period of time, will throw light upon the child's pattern of development. These recordings can be made by using for planning appropriate programs. Parents will be able to understand their child's strengths and weaknesses and can make appropriate changes even at home to enhance the abilities of the child. Importance. As discussed in the previous paragraphs, assessments is of crucial importance to teachers, educators, parents, and others to gain a knowledge about the development and growth of a child. A few pointers of the importance of assessment is as follows. Assessments provides information of the cognitive, physical and motor, socio-emotional, moral language development and learning style of a child. Assessment helps to identify problem areas of children and plan for any intervention or support. Through assessments, the educators can plan an individualized instruction to address a single child or for a group of children who are in the same developmental stage. Assessment also helps to assess the validity of instruction method followed, also if the instruction is meeting the needs of the child. Parents and educators can cooperate and work together to plan instructions for the child. Self-assessment questions, filling in the blanks. Assessments helps to assess dash of instruction method, that is the validity. Child assessments are dash at regular intervals. It should be timed at regular intervals. Different methods of assessment. Children can be assessed formally by using standardized assessment tools like questionnaires, observation checklist, and formally by conducting unrestricted observations, case study, anecdotes, and so on. Both the forms are very fruitful and can help teachers and parents to understand a child's developmental progress. Naturalistic observations can be made with minimum or by not at all disturbing children's learning environment. Regular observations can happen with all the areas of development. Observations can be made by making anecdotes, having checklists, through video and audio recording. Child's profile. A child's profile is a form of record which has a collection of all the activities a child would have done for an academic year. This will very cleanly show the progress the child is making in the classroom. This is a very important record as teachers can opine about a child to its parents with substantiate information. Teacher assessments can be certain ways in which a teacher will assess the capabilities of a child. Teachers will have their own assessment formats which would have been approved. Parent assessment will have the option for parents also to be a part of the assessment. Types of child assessment. According to Massachusetts Department of Early Childhood Care and Education, the National Center on Child Care Quality Improvement, there are two types of assessment tools. Program developed child assessment tools. These have been created to put in order a specific program's instructions and curriculum. Published child assessment tools are tools that have to be tested for its reliability and validity, which can be used as a reliable source for assessing a child's development. According to the National Center on Child Care Quality Improvement, there are three types of assessment tools. Assessment can measure developmental growth in young children within a single area or multiple area, or be used to screen for abnormalities and exceptionalities in development. Single domain assessments pertains to just one developmental domain at a time, that is socio-emotional, cognitive, language or physical development. Assessments can concentrate only on one developmental domain at a time. Multiple domain assessments assesses more than one developmental domain. Screening assessments are used for screening and diagnosing any developmental delays, disabilities, giftedness or other exceptionalities. Functions of assessment. Helps to assess prevailing skills and knowledge of children. Helps to make instructions malleable to the needs of children. Assessment helps to assess a child's development over a period of time. When children's needs are met, it enhances their motivation to do better. Assessments validates a particular action plan. Helps parents keep a track of a child's progress. Components of assessment. According to UTAH Education Network, early childhood assessment is composed of three essential interrelated components. Documentation, that is collection of data, evaluation, analysis and interpretation, and planning for intervention. Communication with family, sharing both progress and the performance. There are many standardized assessment tools available that can be administered on children. Almost all assessment tools will be available with manual which has instructions on ways of administering the tool. One such tool is the Humanics National Child Assessment Form, about which the following I am going to deal in detail. A self-assessment question. Name any one component of assessment. It can be either documentation, evaluation or communication with family. Now, introduction to what is a Humanics National Assessment Form. The Humanics National Child Assessment Form, or in short HNCAF, has been developed to identify the developmental progress of a child through specific behavioral observations. The HNCAF is very easy to be followed and administered. The only criteria that is important is that the person administering this form must have the knowledge about child development if the importance of each item in the manual has to be understood. The HNCAF user manual is available in two formats. One is the Humanics National Infant Toddler Assessment Handbook and Humanics National Preschool Assessment Handbook. The toddler assessment age range is from 0 to 3 years and the preschool assessment age range is from 3 to 6 years. Let's now look in detail about both these assessment forms. Firstly, the Humanics National Infant Toddler Assessment Form. This form is a handbook that explains the developmental approaches and also helps to assess children from birth to 3 years of age. Both parents and teachers can gain a lot by using this manual. This manual gives instructions on how to assess individual child and also instructions on how to provide activities to stimulate overall development of the child. This form is a checklist consisting of skills and behaviors that will most probably be observed in a child from birth to 3 years. This manual acts as a guide for parents and teachers to understand of how to provide appropriate stimulation to attain overall development. The HNCAF is a checklist of 90 items consisting of characteristic behaviors of children from birth to 3 years. The developmental areas that have been covered in this manual are socio-emotional, language, cognitive, gross and fine motor development. Each developmental areas has 18 items under it. All the items are sequenced in such a way that the assessment starts for simple tasks and progressively reaches complex tasks. This form is more suitable for parents as they are the ones who are around the child, especially at this age, that is the first 3 years of life. Each of the items have been described in detail, starting with its developmental significance, description of the task, a sample objective and some suggested activities. Developmental significance tells the importance of an item. Description of the task helps to understand what is the kind of behavior that needs to be observed at what time for deciding if the child is able to accomplish the task. The HNCAF has space provided where the assessment can be done 3 times a year. The child can be assessed even more than that, but to get results, enough time gap must be provided so the results can be used in planning and using the suggested activities. The activities that are suggested are few observation games for children, language recognition activities, discriminating wants for fine and gross motor coordination activities which have few rhymes with movements and facial expressions, certain activities to observe social development, activities that provide space for child to express feelings, picture activity for language development, activities that help the child understand the concept of shape, size, color and texture. Once the HNCAF has been administered, the results must be used to plan appropriate activities to have better learning outcomes for the child. Not doing so does not serve the purpose of the assessment. The next is the Humanics National Preschool Assessment Handbook. The procedure to handle this form and making assessment is similar to that of the infant toddler assessment form, but the aspects of developments observed will be in a broader spectrum. One aspect that the teacher should be alert about is that each child is unique and so is the development. Therefore, the manual can be just used as a guide to get general idea and should not be generalized for all children. Let's take a look at the items that is covered in this form. The HNCAF covers assessment of child in 5 important areas of development. They are socio-emotional, language, cognitive, motor skills, hygiene and self-help skills. The main intention behind this form is to characterize and document a child's achievement and not to categorize him or her. Let's look at the developmental domains and the items covered under it. The first one is the socio-emotional development. During the preschool years, the child is very egocentric. The child looks at the world only from his or her perspective. For the child, it is the most important person and can never handle criticisms. The judgment of right and wrong is still not clear. It's very important for the early childhood educator to understand the socio-emotional development of the child while assessing this aspect. The first 18 items are concerned with socio-emotional development. These items focuses on the child's ability to socialize with others, like cooperation, social awareness, building relationships with parents, other adults and other children. The next set of items deals with the emotional development, which covers self-concept, ability to express and control feelings. Language development and the child's ability to think goes hand in hand. This preschooler thinks of everything in the form of words. This is the age where the preschooler's language development is becoming more complex and the child shows lot of fluency in using language. The language development has been looked at as a receptive and expressive language which will help the educator to assess the child for language skills better. The cognitive development. Cognitive development is, in other words, the intellectual capacity of a child. The items that have been covered under cognitive development are for memory, imagination, thinking and problem solving skills. The motor skills. It is very important for the child to gain control over its body movements as well as which will directly affect the self-development of the child. Giving proper environment which will enhance physical growth and lots of exercise is where you are laying the foundation for the child to gain body control. Items has been covered under gross motor and fine motor skills. Gross motor skills involves all the large muscles like hands, legs and performing activities like skipping, hopping, running, jumping, climbing and so on. Fine motor skills covers activities that involve the small muscles, that is the fingers, and performing activities like scribbling, coloring, buttoning, threading, block play and so on. The next aspect is hygiene and self-help development. Hygiene refers to taking care of oneself in a healthy way. A preschooler will already have an eye for cleanliness, which starts from washing hands before and after eating, brushing, bathing, dressing, not soiling clothes, knowing to be responsible for being clean. Self-help skills are being toilet trained, taking care of their belongings, dressing up on their own, basically taking care of his or her needs. These are the items that the HNCASF identifies to indicate progress in the 5 developmental areas. It is very important that the observer is aware of the developmental aspect, otherwise conducting this assessment becomes meaningless. A self-assessment question. The HNCAF manual describes the developmental milestones, instructs on how to assess it, and also provides activities that can be used as stimulation. Is it true or false? Well, the answer is true. Now, how to use the checklist. Each developmental scale has 18 items, all arranged in progressive sequence, starting from performing simple to complex tasks as the development progresses. It's almost same as the infant toddler form. The manual has everything in detail, a link of which is mentioned which in the references which can be used for further study on this form. It is very important to understand that the results or outcomes of this assessment must be utilized to make learning better for the child or plan more stimulating environment for the child. This form can be used for over a period of time. As the age group is wide, that is 3 to 6, the developmental milestones achieved at 3, 4, 5 and 6 are very different, which the person doing assessment must be sensitive about. The Humanics National Assessment Form is a great tool to help parents and educators know and provide appropriate stimulation for the child for a holistic development. After looking at in detail what is HNCAF and how to administer it, let me conclude by saying that assessments are a blessing for the child as well as the parents and educators, which will help them keep a track of the development of the child. Also makes the adult prepared about what to expect at every developmental stage and make necessary plan to give appropriate stimulation. As Vygotsky says, scaffolding is a must to help the child reach the zone of proximal development, after which the scaffolding can be removed. Scaffolding means the support. Zone of proximal development is a point of reaching a developmental stage. Thank you.